One day, you'll realize something terrifying. You're still working hard. You're still contributing, but none of it actually matters anymore. Not because you failed, but because you succeeded too late. And if you miss this moment, your effort turns into noise. There is a specific point in every system, jobs, businesses, relationships, even social media, where input stops being rewarded. Economists call it diminishing returns. Organizations call it redundancy. Life calls it being replaceable. Today, I'm going to show you what the crossover point actually is, how to recognize it before it hits, and how to escape it without blowing up your life. Because most people don't fail, they just stay useful for too long. But here's the part no one warns you about. The crossover point doesn't feel like failure. It feels like stability. The crossover point is the exact moment when your effort continues, but your impact flattens. You still show up. You still deliver. You might even be praised. But if you disappeared tomorrow, nothing would actually break. The system would adjust. Someone else would step in. A process would absorb your absence. And that's the danger. Because value isn't about effort, it's about irreplaceability. Imagine the top employee in a company, always early, always reliable, never complains. At first, they're invaluable, but over time, their tasks get documented, their workflows get automated, their role gets standardized. Now the company doesn't need them, it just likes them. That's the crossover. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. The better you are at executing, the faster you make yourself replaceable. Because the signals are subtle. You don't get fired, you don't get yelled at, you don't even get ignored. Instead, you get fewer strategic conversations, less decision-making power, more just do this work. Your influence shrinks quietly, and humans are bad at noticing slow declines. We notice explosions, we miss erosion. Your brain says, I'm needed, they rely on me, I'm safe. But what's actually happening is you're being contained, not elevated. Systems don't reward loyalty, they reward leverage. Now here's the twist. The crossover point isn't caused by the system, it's caused by you. The three behaviors that push you past the crossover. First, you optimize instead of redesign. You get better at doing the same thing, faster emails, cleaner reports, more output. But you never ask, should this exist at all? Optimization makes you efficient, redesign makes you essential. Second, you say yes too much. Reliable people get rewarded with more work. Important people get rewarded with more control. If your calendar is full of execution, you're not operating at the level where decisions happen. Third, you confuse visibility with value. Being seen isn't the same as being needed. Posting more, talking more, meeting more. None of that matters if the outcome doesn't change without you. So how do you know you're at the crossover point? Here's the test. The one question that exposes everything. Ask yourself this. If I stopped contributing tomorrow, what would actually stop working? Not what would be annoying, not what would be inconvenient, what would break. If the honest answer is not much, you're already past the crossover. And that's not an insult, it's a signal. Why this is actually good news? Because once you see it, you can move upstream. You stop being labor, you start being leverage. But don't make this mistake. Escaping the crossover point doesn't mean quitting, it means repositioning. Stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, what should exist? Ownership changes your relationship with the system. Tasks are replaceable. Outcomes are not. If your name isn't tied to a result, your role can be dissolved. Build asymmetry. Asymmetry means your contribution creates more value than the effort it takes. Systems reward leverage, not grind. Now let's zoom out. This doesn't just apply to jobs, it applies to life. The crossover point in life. Friendships, relationships, online audiences. There's a moment where you're present, you're consistent, but you're no longer impactful. You're there, but you're not shaping anything. And that's when resentment creeps in. Not because you're undervalued, but because you're underpositioned. The world doesn't reward effort forever. It rewards timing, leverage, and direction. Miss the crossover point, and you'll work harder for less influence. So here's the real question. What do you do before you hit it again? Every system eventually absorbs contributors, so your job is simple. Never let your value fully stabilize. The moment your role feels secure, you should already be designing the next layer, not out of fear, out of strategy. Here's the irony. The crossover point isn't always a bad thing. It only exists because you stayed too long at one level. And most people don't leave, not because they can't, but because they don't recognize the moment. In the next video, I break down why stability is the most dangerous phase of success and how people get trapped there for decades without realizing it. Watch that next, because once you see this pattern, you'll never unsee it. And that's the real leverage.